been very kind to assist me in different ways. Really nice service attitude. And I've been told that don't object. Let the junior devotees give them the opportunity to do some service, even though you don't think you're qualified to accept it. Just let them do their thing, and because that's it's the proper etiquette, that's the proper way to behave. So I said, okay, so I'll allow him. So he gave me a hat, and he's helping me. We had to go someplace yesterday. He offered to drive there and back, in so many different ways. He was assisting me. It was reminiscent. I was reminded of the story of the in the Chaitanya Chaitanya with the Sakshi Gopal, with the old Brahmin and the young Brahmin. So I felt like I was the old Brahmin, and I was being served in so many different ways. And okay. So we went to this Shastra Krit's place, and there was a program in the evening, and he invited me to speak there at the program. But before that we had lunch. Okay. So after lunch, there was a big gap of time in between after lunch and before the program. So his place is in this suburb neighborhood called Stone Mountain. So I heard about it, and I thought, well, what is this Stone Mountain after lunch? Because we finished lunch by about 3 o'clock, and the program's at 7 o'clock. So they said, oh yeah, it's just like a mountain, and it's a park, and then you can go, and you can hike. I said, okay, well, let's do it. Because we had a whole bunch of time there. So we went, and I was thinking, okay, let's get some nice exercise. But, Ram Dass, he was always thinking of distributing. Even when we got there, he had his book bag there, and he was distributing to people as we were walking up the hill. And I was thinking, what? This guy's a fanatic. Come on, let's just hike and do it. But no, he was preaching to people on the way up, on the way down, and I was going up, and these two guys passed me. With this, they just were walking faster, and so it worked out that when we got back down to when we got down to the bottom. Okay, finally, I met him on the way down, because he was preaching to people on the way up, and then as we were leaving the parking lot, he saw another gentleman get out of his car, kind of putting on his shoes and everything, and he tried to distribute a book to him, and I was listening to his lines and everything, and I was thinking, Prabhu, you don't know how to distribute, those aren't very good lines. You got to do it like this. And then I started instructing him. First give him a compliment, and then do a joke, and then do a qualifying question, like that. And I was kind of really, I was very arrogantly, kind of, condescendingly, trying to instruct them on how to distribute. Okay, so that was our conversation in the car driving back to Shastra Krit's place. So then when we get there, I was all sweated up, so I took a shower and everything, and put on some clean clothes, and I come out, and I come out and I see he's there talking to one of those two, actually both the guys that passed me on the hill going up, they were there. They showed up at, Shastra Krit's place, and he's talking to him, and I thought, okay, that's interesting. And I'm sitting down, and then about 5-10 minutes later, he comes in and says, Prabhu, a set of Bhagavatams and a Shaptarisi just went out. I said, what do you mean? He said, that guy, one of the two guys that passed me on, Ram preached to him when he met him on the hill, and then they came back down, and he, in his own way, he explained it to them, and they took it. They took the book, and I was thinking, man, what do I know? And here I'm instructing him how to distribute it. Meantime, he, in his own way, because he had the sincerity, he pleased Krishna. He pleased with his service attitude. Like when Sakshi Gopal, that story Sakshi Gopal, the reason why, that Brahmin went back and he talked to Gopal, and Gopal agreed to come, it wasn't the blessings of the old Brahmin. That might have been it. Well, he pleased Krishna. You see, Krishna's pleased by that behavior. Krishna's pleased when the devotees are trying to serve the other devotees. And ultimately the mercy comes from Krishna. You see? Like there is that statement in the Chaitanya Charitamrita that the Lord's mercy follows the devotee's mercy. You see? So that's there. But ultimately the mercy is coming from Krishna, because Krishna's pleased when he sees that the devotees have that humble, submissive service attitude, and he reciprocates. I'll give you it's kind of a mundane example of this, but it's totally mundane. One day I was at LAX. I was distributing books. I was in Terminal 3. I think that back in those days, TWA was still an airline. I think that's which airline was there. But anyway, it doesn't make a difference. So I was there, and I was in the departure area. But I think I was after the security gates, but it was like departure lounge. So I'm there distributing, and this big guy comes walking into the thing, and he had 2 kids with him. And I look, and I get a better look, and I said, whoa, I said, that is O.J. Simpson. So it was O.J. Simpson coming through with, a girl who looked about 13 or so, and a boy that looked maybe like 7 or 8, So I thought, well, I felt nervous, but I got to try to distribute the book to him. So I tried. I approached him and said, hey, O.J., good to see you. I can't remember what I said, it was too long ago. But I tried to stop him then, and he said, hey, look, I'm sorry. This was after the whole trial and everything, and this after he got himself into trouble. He didn't have a very good reputation, so he was trying to be on his best behavior. So he was very polite, but he politely said, I have to keep moving, I'm dropping my daughter off. Her gate was further down, so he had to, drop her off there, so he excused himself. And he said, maybe I'll catch you on the way back like that. So I thought, okay. So he went. But about 15, 20 minutes later, he came back, and he had just the boy with him. And he did say that I'd catch you on the way back, so I approached him again. And hey, O.J., you got a minute now? He said, well, not really, I'm kind of... I said, well, give me a minute. I handed him the Bhagavad Gita, showed him, did my best to try to interest him in the Bhagavad Gita. Maybe I showed him changing bodies, or whatever I did, I can't remember. And he was going, well, I'm not really so much into this thing. And then his son was there. His son was about 8 years old, and he says, Daddy, I want that book. Daddy, I want that book. And his father looks at him, O.J. Simpson looks at him, he says, yeah, I want that book. And O.J. goes like, well, okay. And he pulls out his wallet and he says, here I am, I got no money and I'm buying books. So the point is that, he didn't want it. He didn't have any particular interest. Just like Lord Chaitanya didn't have any particular interest in Ram Vishwas or something like that. But at least in this case, because his son, was so adamant that he wanted the book, and O.J. Simpson has affection for his son, and he wants to please his son, so he bought it. So, it's an analogy there. In other words, Krishna, if the devotee really likes somebody, if the devotee wants mercy for somebody, Krishna might be feeling, well, I'm not particularly, nothing special about that book, but Krishna wants to please the devotee. Krishna wants to please the devotee, so that person gets mercy. Sudama, okay? And I don't know what Sudama said in his letter, but Prabhupada, in his response, he said, when I was alone in New York, I was thinking, who will listen to me in this horrible, sinful place? But at least I can distribute a few of my books. That is something. But, then he goes on to say, but Krishna was all along planning something I could not see. He brought you young boys and girls to me one by one for doing the work of Lord Chaitanya. Now I can see it's a miracle. He said, otherwise, one old man in your city of New York with barely enough money to buy his edibles, that's the word he uses, food, how can he survive? What to speak of starting a God-conscious movement to save the entire human race? And he repeated again, now I can see it's Krishna's miracle. And see? So, Prabhupada was seeing his Krishna's miracle. I see it like that, of course, too, because Prabhupada's saying that. But in addition to that, I see it that what was really going on there is Krishna was reciprocating with Prabhupada's sincerity. Prabhupada had such a sincere desire to execute the instruction of his spiritual master that he kind of like, I don't know if it's correct to say force Krishna's hand, but Krishna's mercy follows the devotee's mercy. Prabhupada had such a strong, sincere desire to please his spiritual master by following his instruction of going to the West and preaching, starting Krishna, spreading Krishna consciousness, that Krishna had to do it. And there's one purport in the 4th canto where Prabhupada says, I can't remember the exact words, but the gist of it is, he says that the pure devotee is always thinking how to deliver the fallen conditioned souls. And Krishna, being pleased by that attitude, he enlightens the general populace from within by his causeless mercy. You see? He enlightens the general populace from within by his causeless mercy. So that's, I believe, what's happened. That's my understanding. That's my explanation of how the Krishna conscious movement started and had such a strong, sincere desire to please his spiritual master that Krishna didn't want to disappoint his devotee. He just had to, he had to fulfill that desire. So he enlightened the general populace. Krishna Prabhupada's desiring, and Krishna enlightened some of the general populace, not all